afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Web3 Lounge. We're so glad to have you back. We've got a really exciting session for you today. I'd like to welcome to the stage Kristin and Stephen. I'll let them introduce themselves. But before we do, I just wanted to say a big shout out to all of our sponsors, Midnight Oil, Passage Labs, Ethos Spatial, Solana Foundation, Gen City Labs, and Nightcap 3D. Also wanted to just point you to a couple of QR codes that you can scan while you're here. Passage Labs is helping us with the D2 NFT, so if you get a chance, you can scan the QR code and get your NFT for discounts off of next year's events. And we also have a social channel on LinkedIn and, of course, every other social platform. There's a QR code on our sign over here, so please scan that and follow us on LinkedIn. I also wanted to thank and point you back to Solana Foundation here in the back. They're working with us to help you understand how to make a crypto transaction using Solana Pay if that's not something you've had a chance to do before. So stop back and ask for Josh, and he'll get you set up. So with that, I'd like to get started. I'm going to welcome Stephen. They do have some slides and some videos that they're going to share with you as they go along, so please pay attention. They've got some great visuals to share. With that, Stephen, over to you.
Hello. Oh, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Testing. Okay.
Testing. So my name is Stephen Moy. I'm a CEO of a digital creative agency, Barbarian. It's a 20-year-old agency for the longest time. A little bit about myself is been working over 30 years. I've been using a lot of anti-aging serums, so it works quite well for me. So first 10 years, I was a software engineer. So give me a lot of appreciation about technology. And the last 20 years with Sapien, Publicis Sapien, Denso Isobar, RGA, and now Barbarian. And I'm so excited to have Kristin Patrick, CMO of Claire's, joining me today. And we talk about Web3 and anything related to the future of marketing. And shall we play the video first, and then I'll...
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's... Nope.
Exciting time. So, Kristin, tell me, can you introduce yourself and what's your journey? How you get to where you are today, and also how you get so interested into the Web3?
I'm Kristin Patrick. I'm currently the Chief Marketing Officer for Claire's. I have spent my career, I try to draw connection lines because when I tell you about my background, it's different. I wasn't brought up as a traditional packaged goods marketer. I spent time in the entertainment industry and actually started my career at the Walt Disney Company. And I learned everything there about building brands, and I think about things across content, product, and experiences. I also spent time in the fashion industry and omni-channel retail industry. I worked for Calvin Klein, Gap Inc. I was the Chief Marketing Officer for Liz Claiborne's Lucky brand. I was the Chief Marketing Officer for Playboy, which I will write a book about someday because Hugh Hefner was alive while I was there. And I have to say, it was actually one of the best treatment of women, female employees of all the companies I worked at. I was the Chief Marketing Officer for PepsiCo for about 6 years, and I joined Claire's about 2 years ago. And I think that I'm so interested in new technologies and Web3. First of all, because I'm just a naturally curious person, but my job is steeped in Gen Z, and they live their lives in a phygital perspective. They morph the physical and the digital world. And I also have a Gen Z child who lives her life like crazy in terms of going back and forth with technology and being present in the real world. And so it's just, I think, part of how I think.
Great, great. Yeah, I work with a lot of brands also try to reach that new generation of audience. The media and consumption mode, how they, connect with brands completely different. And tell me more about, I know you've been transforming your company, right? Going through, the last 2 years for a 60-year-old brand and targeting the Gen Z Alpha, your terminology. And tell me more about what have you learned, the younger audiences, how you reach them, how you get that emotional connection, and how you get them into your ecosystem.
I think one of the most difficult audiences to reach, but by the way, you guys, they are such a cool generation. So I wish that I had their thinking. They are one of the most, there's Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So Gen Z we classify as 13 to 24-year-olds, and then 13 and under are the alphas. So I lovingly refer to them as the Zalphas. And they are amazing from, they're very, very creative, very entrepreneurial. They, like I said before, sort of live their lives morphing between the digital and the physical world. And in general, their lives are kind of fluid. They think about gender fluidity differently than a lot of generations. The other thing to remember about them is that they spent 2 years of their lives dealing with COVID. So they missed like key portions of socialization. And they definitely have and talk openly about mental illness and mental stamina, and so it's something that's top of mind for them. In order to reach these guys, you sort of can't be in their faces, right? So most of my jobs were about top-down marketing, and this is very much about opening the door and the conversation and having them walk through the door. So you have to be where they are, understand in a really deep and meaningful way what they're doing and what's important to them. So, setting up feedback loops and having constant dialogue with them is really important, which is probably a little bit different than generations past.
Totally, totally. I still remember I used to do customer review on Amazon. Like now, different world right now, or Google. Yeah, tell me more about your journey. I know you recently entering the metaverse, basically creating like I call the omniverse, right? Digital, the physical retail touchpoint, and also the virtual digital enabled space. I'm sure. Tell me more about the whole journey. You created the shimmer view, right? We will share with you some of the content. Very exciting. And tell me more about how you learn and do you have like fast advertising model, like doing test and learn, and tell me more about that whole journey.
Yeah, so Claire's is a 60-year-old brand, and you guys probably remember it as a mall-based retailer, super hot in the 90s, and I think I started the conversation by telling you I like to go into messy situations with companies, right? So like I was brought into Pepsi when sugar was becoming the next tobacco, and brought into Playboy after the company was taken private and it needed a new vision in terms of where it was going to go. The situation with Claire's is a little bit like that. So a little bit dusty in terms of its image, but a beloved brand and a massive global brand. So we have 3,000 owned and operated retail stores around the world. And most people enter the brand during an important rite of passage, which is a first piercing. So a lot of people come up to me and they're like, oh, I love Claire's. I got my ears pierced there. My daughter got their ears pierced there. And so, the task at hand was, how do you create a new conversation around the brand and reach this elusive and amorphous Gen Z and Gen Alpha group? So we started by, first of all, going back in the history of the brand, understanding the original intent from the founders. We talked to a ton of consumers and people at the company, And one of the things that, I learned was that the brand initially was supposed to be for people who were between the ages of 2 to 92. And I actually really liked that because in some ways Claire's is ageless, right? Like I can go in there and find something really fun that I want to buy, and then 8-year-olds can go in there. But I think at the heart of everything is about self-expression and creativity. And that is such an important human characteristic. Like that's never going to go out of style, folks. Like that is so, about and important to many different generations. And I think that's what's kept the brand around for so long. So with that in hand, we set out to redefine it. And it was very much about, consumers told us, listen, we love you guys. We want more from you. So we want, apparel to go along with the accessories. We'd love for you to decorate our dorms and bedrooms. We want content from you. So I only go where they're telling me they want us to go. So, first of all, making sure that our fleet of retail stores are thriving and elevating the piercing experience within the stores. We then took the brand out of its owned and operated channels, and we're starting to sell it in Macy's. We're in Walmart. You can find us in Galeries Lafayette, sitting next to Dior and Burberry in Paris. And we also started to surround the brand with the world's best creators and makers. So we made Lady Gaga's creative director, Nicola Formichetti, our creative director. And he's best known for Lady Gaga's meat dress, you guys. And so there was something that was actually quite perfect about him. He's this really warm, gentle, lovely human being who loves, boba earrings and squishmallows, and he knew exactly where to go with the brand and what to do. We did a very interesting partnership with the avant-garde magazine V. If you're familiar with it, it's a global magazine, super, super high fashion, and we did a mini version of it. So we looked for head-snapping opportunities to just sort of, I think, shock and wow people. I really kind of wanted people to say, wait, what did Claire's just do? We've got the meat guy dress and the, what just happened? But in understanding the consumer, they're in the metaverse. This is a generation who basically never knew a life without Alexa. So it's we have to be there.
Yeah, seems like you really understand how to keep up with the pace of culture too. Because you are transforming your brand from traditionally how people perceive you now into the more fashion and retail side. Fascinating. Do you want to share some of your?
Yeah, it's so interesting for me because when I start to talk about Claire's, I know people have the conception or the perception of, our freestanding retail stores, right? And you walk in, there's stuff everywhere, and we like to talk about it as a treasure hunt in terms of the shopping, but as I start to think about this consumer's lives and where we can go, we talk about ourselves now as more of a global brand powerhouse and a lifestyle. So you'll start to see the brand kind of morph as we go into new business categories. And I'm going to show you what we built in Roblox. So basically, Claire's is the store. So what does it look like as you go into the metaverse and into Roblox? And this is kind of a trailer that we did for the game. I just want to make sure the volume's up too. So basically, we created a world of Claire's inside of Roblox, and you can get a job at the mall. Of course, there's a mall. And you can get a job as an ear piercer. You can pick your vehicle. There's a center stage that will end up programming. You can pick your outfit. There's a group of critters and characters that you can take along on your journey with you, and you can pick the character type and personality. And one of the things that consumers told us when we were talking to them is they said they wanted cafes from us, which I don't know where they came up with that, because it's like, wait, Claire's and cafes, but we put a cafe in the game because, they said they wanted it. So that's what it looks like. And, we embarked on this journey to take a brick and mortar retail store, and what does that look like as you take it into the metaverse?
But also, you take it one step further. I noticed when we were prepping for this session, you're actually integrating all the dimensions together, like your metaverse world in the physical world, the digital you talk about.
Yes. So I think it's important to just watch how consumers are moving in their lives. So one of the things that we wanted to do was really create that phygital experience. So we have the game, and now what we're doing is we're taking the characters out of the game and into our stores. So this week we're launching a line of products that will be based on the characters. And I think I'm going to show you a slide. Hopefully if I click this, it'll come up. So that you can see like what it means to sort of take this piece of intellectual property and then take it into a bunch of different dimensions. And, our ambition is to create scale content and intellectual property that we own. So for many years, Claire's has been out there supporting every movie, every character property. And so we started to think, wait a second, we have a massive global footprint. We have 3,000 stores around the world. We have a loyalty program with 18 million members in it that's only 2 years old. And so it's like we have this captive audience. And honestly, that's a lot more than some entertainment networks have, right? So it's
totally.
like, how do we use that? So Shimmerville is our first intellectual property, and we're really evolving it into something with revenue, and we're going to be monetizing this. So first of all, there'll be products and merchandise, and you'll see that we took those characters, we turned them into stuffed animals, jewelry, backpacks, like all the stuff that you love from Claire's, and of course there's fuzzy journals. You will start to see us go into content as a next step. So broadcast movies, programming around the pets, and probably publishing as well, so stories about Shimmerville. And then we're going to take it cross-platform, so we'll take the IP into other platforms, so Fortnite, Zepeto, Meta, and Decentraland. And then what does that look like practically in our stores? So it will look like this. So the windows would be Shimmerville. There'll be a Shimmerville display in the store. This is our store in Paris that we launched with Nicola. And then you'll be able to buy it on our website, of course. This would be an out-of-home campaign for Claire's and Shimmerville. And some of the products. And of course, all marketing people love to show out-of-home examples. I love me a good out-of-home example. And then, of course, hopefully over time, we have, Shimmerville, the movie. And this is what it would look like in a Walmart because, again, we've taken the product out of their stores. And I think, this is how it would look on our social feed. So you kind of get the full exploited material and kind of the best example of this idea of phygital.
That's excellent example. I would say this is an excellent example about how you really think about an ecosystem or your customer touch point and how you integrate your ideas, your purpose, and how you reach the audience and across all the different digital world we talk about. Yeah, very exciting time.
It is super exciting, and we're going through. I always say this ain't your daddy's Claire's because it's like it's different, and you have to be different. And so I think that it is. It's the way that you have to reach consumers today.
If we have time, I would love to ask you how you persuade your board to do it.
Oh, that's, I am so lucky. I have an amazing partner in the CEO at Claire's, and we are very, very different and complement each other in the best ways. And I think it takes a lot for, the CEO CMO relationship to get to that place. But he's wonderful, and our board is phenomenal. I will say they let us dream. It's really at such a special time, and I feel lucky to be here.
Because I work with a lot of clients. Not everybody is that courageous. I call you're
Yeah.
very courageous. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
And in terms of what's next, right? There's so many. If you unpack Web3, basically, it's a lot of new technologies that can enable different type of brand experiences, or building different type of relationship, right? We talk about like from blockchain to metaverse and NFT. Someone just announced an NFT earlier about this event, but also we cannot not talk about AI, right? Generative AI. I talk to a lot of marketers. Depends on who you talk to. From marketing tech world, they all talk about automation and data stitching. What's your take on AI? Is it a role for AI in your world going forward?
I think that brands that are targeting Gen Z and Gen Alpha have to be like on the bleeding edge of technology, and you have to be there. You have to watch where your consumer is going, and you have to be willing to try things and make mistakes, and like quickly course correct, and don't spend too much money on making those mistakes, right? So, and again, this is where it's so important to have that relationship with the CEO and the CFO, and I think that it makes sense for this generation to let them guide you. I will step in it badly at some point, I'm sure, but like I say, I try to mitigate risk as much as possible. But I love AI, and we are using it and deploying it. One of the first things that we did, I'll show you guys, we took our piercing business and branded it, and it's called Pierced by Claire's. So we took this sort of, we're the #1 piercer in the world. We modernized the approach with this Pierced by Claire's concept, and the two girls in the lower right and left hand corners are AI generated. The girl in the lower right hand corner is in our store windows and signage today. So if you walk by Claire, she should be there, unless we changed it out for holiday, but I don't think we have yet. But it's this like super creative, like over the top sort of experience of piercing. And I think that a brand like Claire's can kind of go there because we are so much about self-expression and creativity. And so it's like the sort of, I don't know, I always think that Claire's has a little bit of a sense of humor about itself as well. And so we're going to continue to do more of this. And in fact, one of the things that we're doing to launch the Shimmerville product, we had an AI artist named Timo design some social posts for us. So you'll start seeing more from us in terms of AI.
Great. Thank you. That's another right way of using technology, the same way. Because we talk about the world changing so fast, right? Since COVID, there's a lot of new dynamic coming in, and then the rise of the Gen Z Alpha you mentioned. And a lot of my clients find the audience very opinionated, right? So you mentioned you have a constant dialogue with your audience. And I have a theory, like eventually you don't need focus group anymore, right? Going forward, they will tell you, right? Everything you launch, everything that you learn from it. Tell me more about how you harness that continuous feedback, like almost like near real time now, right?
Yeah. So I feel like of all the companies I've worked at, retail is the best because it's like you have your own labs with the stores that you have. I had that when I worked for Gap, and I think that that's so incredibly important. So in that way, I'm very lucky because they are like little lab test centers. And then those 18 million loyalty members, like we are constantly talking to them. We've got feedback loops going on with them on an ongoing basis, and we really value their opinions, so we're using them. We also set up a college creator program. It's like an internship where they can, they help us with our social posts, and one of the best performing TikToks that we ever had was done by a college student. So that's another way that we connect. And I think that, I get a lot smarter by the Gen Zs on my team on an ongoing basis. And so for Claire's, it's, they'll tell you what they think. And I actually really like it and appreciate it. And then you just have to be willing to listen and let them guide you.
Great, and I didn't tell you actually. In July, August this year, I leveraged your model. I created a creator internship at a Barbarian, actually based off from what you have done. So
Nice.
yeah, I actually learned a lot talking to them.
Exactly.
They look at brand completely differently than we do. Like very exciting. So two more questions before we open up to the floor. We talk about you have great relationship with the CEO and CFO. Have you thought about your role of CMO also become like an advisor, educator, an evangelist, right, to your board? Like, tell me more about like how you keep up with all the changes we're dealing with, and also keep them up to speed about focusing on the benefit that you can generate. Tell me more about that, Jen.
Yeah, I always thought about the CMO's role as the morphing of the business strategy and the marketing strategy, and I was trained as a general manager as well. So I view things in terms of blending and morphing those two things. So I think that I don't think about marketing just in terms of activations. I think about it very much in terms of morphing the business strategy. So I think that that's a distinction, and I think that that's where CMOs should be going and what they should be thinking about.
Yeah, totally. Remember one time, not too long ago, the past few years, where the CMO is the experience officer. You own the customer experience. You're also the innovation person, right?
Yes.
Everything.
Yes, you are.
And also brand, lead generation, revenue.
Yes, it is a very, I think it's a really interesting time for CMOs because I think that the role is so incredibly important. And I find myself at the company, like, my team is the voice of the consumer. And they really sort of bring that to the table. And I think that we have the most information and data in addition to the merchants at the company. So I think that, the role of marketing in general is evolving. I think the other really interesting thing that's happening for companies is that they have had to, over the last several years, become publishers of content. And that is not like what their expertise is, right? So like when I worked at Pepsi, we created food and beverages, but we suddenly found ourselves in a situation where we went from having to create, 3 big television spots a year to thousands of pieces of content a day to keep up with social feeds. And so I think that that's something that a lot of companies are struggling with. And, even at Claire's, when I got there, like I inherited a marketing department that made retail signage. So we very quickly had to put in place capabilities to keep up with Pinterest and TikTok and Threads now. And so I think that that is something that is going to be a real challenge for marketing people.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, the velocity of the content is, we talk about hours now,
Yes.
not 3
That's a whole other
TV commercial a year, yes. So I know we have one last question before opening the floor. What would be one action that you recommend any marketer here or CMO how to get started earlier with Web3? As we talk about this exciting world, there's a lot of dimension. You can get more customer data. You can create the omniverse, right? The digital. What would be your one action recommendation?
I think that if you are going to go into this, you first of all need to understand your consumer demo and make sure that this is something that they want, because it can be a thrilling adventure. But listen, I went from being a retail company to now like doing this, and like it was finding capabilities and building capabilities and understanding and watching and making mistakes and course correcting. So if your consumer doesn't want you there, listen, it has to begin and end with what they want to do. And then make sure that your CEO and board are cool with what you're about to do.
Great advice. So thank you. And
Thank
we
you.
open up the floor for questions. Any questions for Kristin?
Questions?
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm curious because you're talking about all the different social channels, and obviously now there's so much more content being created, but they all have their own personalities. You can't go into TikTok the same way you go into Facebook, and then Meta, and just however Web3, all of the different channels, all of the different platforms. How do you keep up with that as well as staying on top of what goes viral, what doesn't? Like, there's just amazing ways to really connect with your audience, but you don't want to miss the boat.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. First of all, everything begins and ends with the brand's positioning, right? So like everything has to look and feel consistent, and the tone of voice, and so that was like one of the first steps that we took. The minute that my team started at the company, like we had to define the brand. And then I'm going to be honest, it's a challenge to keep up with it all. It really, really is, because like I say, we now are on like 6 different platforms. We were a first mover on Threads because you have to be. And so I'm looking right now I'm thinking a lot about the marketing org of the future and what that looks like. And content generation is like a key part of it. So, where we used to do still photography and fashion shoots, like that's evolving very, very quickly. So, it's a combination of internal talent, external talent. It's creators and makers that you can align with. It's influencers. So it's quite detailed and complicated in terms of like what that looks like. And I feel like, my first 2 years at the company was about sort of getting out there, evolving things. And now I'm going back and like really thinking about how we set up for the future.
Anyone
I think
else?
there's one right here.
Hey, I'm Isabella with POOP. I was wondering how you guys, if you guys think about the integration of online and, say, real-world experiences. Is there a perspective you have on that?
The integration of online and real world experiences outside of the example I gave, or like our e-commerce platform, you mean?
Yeah, so outside of the metaverse, because that's kind of very online, right? I'm wondering if there's anything that you have in the perspective of helping people take their real-world experiences online and vice versa.
So
Is there continuity, I guess?
yeah, there's continuity across the brand. Like even within the products that we're putting into the Roblox game, as an example, they actually exist in the store, right? So like you can dress your avatar and stuff that exists in the store today. Now we're taking stuff from Roblox and putting that in the stores. And then from an e-commerce perspective, just plain old good e-commerce, we try to differentiate some of the products that we sell online, and what you'll find in stores can be a little bit different. So you'll start to see more of that from us. But I have to tell you, like, I am such a big believer in social shopping and really diving into that. And next year, I do want to update our e-commerce platform and experience, because I want it to be more of a world of everything that you're seeing today, right? So today, Claire's is a pretty standard like catalog of products that we sell on e-com. I really want to put, some Roblox stuff on there. We also launched a 5-part episodic series called Dear Claire about the lives of Gen Z. And I want it to live online. So I really want it to be this like immersive shopping experience meets, a place where our content can sit as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Is there any aspiration around maybe one day having the things that you buy online be like redeemable in store, or vice versa, the things that you buy in store come with like a Roblox duplicate? Or is that not kind of anywhere in the imagination space?
Yeah, it's already happening. We just launched products that you'll find on Roblox that you can buy in our stores. And again, the avatars that you can dress, like the products are from the stores and inspired by the store. So we're morphing. The other thing we will do is connect our loyalty program so that you can redeem points in the metaverse in our stores and through our loyalty program.
That's incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi.
Popular.
That's on.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the session. It sounds like Claire's is really thriving under your leadership. What are the things and the challenges that keep you up? Like, what are the things that you're still trying to solve? Because there's so many brands that are nowhere near where you are from a kind of a creativity and a brand confidence perspective. So what's the thing that you're like, this is the next challenge I'm trying to overcome for Claire's?
I told you, like, I know one day I'm taking I would say that Claire's has been so great at taking risks, right? And when I watch what happened a year ago, so we started the metaverse process maybe like 2 years ago, started to build it, think about it. At that time, brands were going into the metaverse in more like promotional spaces within other people's games. We decided to create a game and not name it Claire's. And I remember our board asking me and our CEO, like, what are you doing? Like, why is this not called Claire's? Like, thank God I didn't call it Claire's, because there was that whole moment where like people were pulling out because of the COPA laws and kids under 13. So I really feel like my Disney background saved me in a way.
Shimmerville is a great name.
Right? It's a piece of intellectual property that will be so much bigger than just a Roblox game over time. And I think I would have gotten in a lot of trouble if I had gone in with the Claire's name, because we would have wasted all that money and had to pull out. So keep your fingers crossed for me, because I want to do more of this and I think it's important, but there's some risk involved. So that stuff keeps me awake at night.
One last question. Anybody else? Or
One more.
Hi, thank you. I'm just curious if you see the Roblox world coming to life in an experiential activation form one day for your shoppers and for your customers.
Oh, I would love that. Yes. I can just, I think that one of the things that we wanted to do with the game design and the look and feel, we wanted it to feel like modern with big, bold colors. And so we were really thoughtful about like that process. And I feel like, yeah, I would love to see that like brought to life in a store somehow.
Yeah, I would love to see
It'd be
that.
really, really cool.
stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
I think that's our time.
Yeah, pretty
Oh,
much,
okay.
unless there's any more questions.
Well, I'm so excited about the future, and thank you guys so much for
Thank you.
listening to me. And thank you.
Thank you both.